Hey friends, how's it going? Ash here with Gents. Hope everybody's doing well. So we talk about cheapies on this channel pretty often. It's a really popular thing to talk about in general because who doesn't like getting a fragrance or anything for that matter on the cheap, and then it turns out to be worth a lot more than what you paid for it. Makes you feel good. Makes you feel like you got a bargain, like you're a smart shopper. I did my research and I got a good deal, let me tell you. But just because something is cheap does not always mean that it's still worth buying. And today I'm going to be talking to you guys about 10 different fragrances that I think are not worth your time, not worth your money, even at their cheap discounted prices. So these ones, I think you're pretty safe to just stay away from. Let's kick it off with Azzaro Decibel. It looks like a little microphone. Isn't that neat? The two fragrances that come to mind when I think about bottles shaped like microphones are this one and Adam Levine's fragrance, which is actually better than this. And my bottle hates me, so the atomizer doesn't really work. Well, it does work in the sense that it's kind of like a super soaker. So if you wanted to, you could really troll people with this one pretty easily. Maybe that's what it's made for, actually. Check it out. I'll show you. It just shoots out like a globule, just right out from the atomizer. I don't really want to think about it too much, actually, which is really great when you're trying to spray it onto a tester strip. I got it. I also sprayed like 5 sprays all over my floor. Dang it. It's got a pungent mustiness to it that's not at all pleasant. It's not really the kind of fragrance that I want to smell like ever. Now, to be fair, there are some people out there that sing the praises of Azzaro Decibel, and they think that the funkiness within that bottle is A-okay. I'm not one of those people, though. It's made to be more of a casual or night out kind of fragrance, but it just doesn't really work that well. It doesn't have very much mass appeal to it. Like all things that are off the beaten path a bit, it will have its cult following, like I mentioned, but most of you out there are going to do very well just leaving this one alone and out of all your carts. Next up, let's tackle an Armaf Club de Nuit Urban Man. This is 100% the redheaded stepchild of the Club de Nuit Man line. It should not exist. It's an abomination. The fragrance is an affront to humanity. Well, maybe it's actually not that intensely bad, but what it is a clone, a knockoff of Mr. Burberry. Yeah, like, why? It doesn't make any sense. And it's not even really a direct one-to-one with the eau de toilette or the eau de parfum. It's almost like those two had a baby. It's like Mr. Burberry eau de toilette and eau de parfum, who are related, decided to have a child, and out popped this. It's special. This one just makes absolutely no sense at all because Mr. Burberry EDT and EDP both smell better than this one, and they're probably about the same price, sometimes even cheaper. Who wants a friggin' clone of Mr. Burberry? Who was writing to Armaf like, "Dear Armaf, thank you for cloning these Creeds and these other expensive fragrances, but what I really need is the Mr. Burberry." No thanks, it sucks. Next, Azzaro Sport. Sorry, Azzaro, you have 2 members in this list. This was one of those fragrances that just came out of nowhere. It just dropped into the gray market like it fell from the sky or came up from the earth and popped up for like $25 at all of your favorite discount retailers. It was one of those moments where you just say, what is this? Why did they not announce this? Why is there no information about this anywhere on the entire internet? Nothing exists about this scent. Then you smell it, and you realize why. It isn't that it smells unpleasant. It's just that it is the most boring fragrance that could have possibly been made. Azzaro Sport is the pinnacle of the cheap throwaway gem fragrance that you don't really care about, but you keep it around just so sometimes when you're sweaty, you can spray it on and cover up some of that funk. Maybe you throw it into a gym bag. Maybe you throw it into your car. Whatever. It's that type of fragrance that's completely and wholly forgettable. And so you'd be better off taking your money and spending it on something else a little bit nicer. And also, I just want to throw this out there really quickly. One of you guys hit me up a little while back that works for a large company that deals with these fragrances, with the distribution of the fragrances. And we had a conversation about those fragrances that come out and just show up at discounters with no information at all. And you've seen them from Mont Blanc, from Dunhill, from Azzaro. And apparently, most of the time, the reason those brands don't release anything about them at all is because they don't even really want to endorse them. That's how much they care about those fragrances. They're apparently made just for certain distributors who will order them in small numbers to see how they do. And if they do well, then maybe it gets a proper release down the road and they'll order more of them. And if it does poorly, they just kind of wash their hands of it and say, well, that wasn't really released. That's not really us. Blah. Next, let's do this one. Penguin Ice Blue. Now, the nicer Penguin fragrances at a good discount, they're okay. Premium blend, signature blend, blendy blend, blenders. The blend line, whatever. This line is cheaper, noticeably. And the issue with this fragrance specifically is much the same issue that I have with the Azzaro Sport. And that is, it's just the most boring fresh fragrance you could ever imagine. This one though, with more of an aromatic icy edge to it as compared to Azzaro Sport, which by the way, is getting re-released in a way. So maybe the new Azzaro Sport is nicer. They at least upgraded the cap, so that's something. But Ice Blue is just very cheap. It's boring, it's uninspired. The best thing you're gonna get from that is potentially the same thing you'd get from Azzaro Sport, a throwaway fragrance that you can spray on and not really care because it's cheap, but then you're not gonna feel all that great about wearing it because it smells cheap. From there, 24 Elixir Rise of the Supurb from Scent Story, and that's quite a name. 24 Elixir Rise of the Supurb. Really overselling it at that point. You know, if you give it a name like that and then the fragrance isn't so good, that doesn't look great, and guess what? It kinda sucks. One thing I will say is that it is more interesting than almost all the other fragrances here. It has kind of a potpourri kind of scent profile to it. Like a dried floral, dried spicy kind of vibe that comes off when you smell it at first. That one I did a review of many moons ago. I didn't like it much then, I don't like it much now. And it's gonna be one of the more expensive ones in this list as well. Scent Story does have some decent fragrances, especially at discounted prices. 24 Gold is the one that most people are going to know about. 24 Ice Gold is pretty good as well. And then some of the other 24 flankers, oud flankers and stuff, those are all right too. On the whole though, really weird idea for a fragrance line. It's based off the 24 TV show from many years ago with Kiefer Sutherland, who was awesome in The Lost Boys. But that whole idea of a fragrance line based around 24, the television show, just makes the least amount of sense of any fragrance line that's ever existed, I think. From there, let's go to Davidoff Champion, the fragrance of choice for people coming off their steroid cycle who are rocking some mad gyno. That nice alcohol tinge when you spray it on lets you know you're in for a good time. When you spray the fragrance on for the first few minutes, all you smell is the wonderful scent of rubbing alcohol. Eventually it settles into kind of a screechy lemon, cheap, mossy, woody type scent profile. That is not at all going to set you apart from anybody. You are once again scraping the bottom of the barrel with the most generic of fragrances possible here. But on the bright side of things, the projection is pretty much crap. After that, Christian Lacroix Bazar. I probably should not have purchased this fragrance, but I was hoping it was going to be kind of a diamond in the rough because Christian Lacroix does have a discontinued fragrance called Tumult, which I love, and I have 2 bottles of, and that bottle is beautiful. This one is kind of fugly. Even though the bottle is ugly, I was hopeful this would be a really nice fragrance. And is it? Well, you already know the answer. It's in this video. Well, to be fair, this is better than some of the other fragrances here. I would rather wear this than Decibel. I'd rather wear this than Champion. The opening is not great, but it at least tries to do something kind of interesting by putting a melon note in there, and you can pick the melon up. Unfortunately, what ends up happening is it dries down to, once again, just a generic woody, citrusy kind of men's fragrance with a splash of lavender that you don't care at all about because you've smelled it 10 million times and 10 million times done better. Oh, and the packaging on that is horrific. It comes in this like metallic tin and it just bangs around on the inside in there because it comes out of the plastic that's supposed to hold it into the metallic tin. If you thought cardboard boxes suck, just check that out. Now I have to do one of these because when you see the bottle, you'll know why. It's from Police and it is To Be Camouflage. It looks like a little skull, like one of the crystal skulls that Indiana Jones was hunting, except it has a big grill that says Police. It's like you're holding a little shrunken head skull in your hands. Kind of weird. Now, I would say that this one, more so than most of the other fragrances here, could be usable for younger guys looking for just a sweet, kind of casual, everyday scent. Is the quality there? Not much, but also this doesn't cost much. It's bubblegummy, it's overly sweet, it's kind of like Invictus met Eros and also hung out with 1 Million and they kicked it and came up with something and stuck it into a skull bottle and also made it cheaper smelling. For most anybody that's not really young though, you're not gonna really want that. Next up, we have Dunhill Icon Racing Blue. And this one I paid way too much money for. It's depressing. Thankfully though, the price has come down on it. So if you were to purchase it, at least you wouldn't be spending, I don't know, $120 some, I think it was. And for the price this goes for, even though it's not a huge amount, there are probably 100 other things I'd rather have. Now this one's a little bit interesting because it comes in a blue bottle. The note breakdown would have you think that it's a very blue fragrance, that it's gonna compete with things like Sauvage or Bleu de Chanel or Y Eau de Toilette or Dylan Blue or Aqua Atlantique or any of those. But then when you give it a smell, it's actually not as blue or fresh as you would expect. It's a little bit like a blend of warm and spicy and slightly sweet, and then marine and fresh. So it's neither all the way fresh, all the way marine, all the way aquatic or blue, or all the way deep and warm and spicy and rich. In a very simplified way of thinking, it's almost like you took Dolce & Gabbana's The One and tried to turn it into a blue fragrance while maintaining that spiciness and warmth from The One as much as you could, which actually maybe sounds not so bad. And then last but not least, Guess Dare. Guess has some very good fragrances on the cheap. This is not one of them. Now, when you first spray it on, it will trick you. It'll try to trick you because it's gonna smell decent, not so bad. Fresh, inviting, slightly sweet with a little prickle on the tip of your nose. It's kind of interesting. I like that. An aromatic hint there. But no. Spray it on your skin. Not as nice as on a tester strip. And pretty quickly, it settles into mediocrity and kind of an off-putting feeling, actually. This is one of those fragrances where you smell it and it's just, something is wrong. Something is not working there. Not everybody's gonna be able to put their finger on it and say, well, it's this that's causing what I'm smelling and that's why I don't like it. But everybody is going to be able to smell it and go, something's not right here. I'm getting a vibe I'm not liking. And that's what happened with me. Sprayed this on a tester strip and I thought to myself, this is a potential nice cheapie for spring and summertime. As soon as it settled on my skin, I wrote it off and just thought, oh God, now I understand why it's going for $14.99. So Guess Dare, just don't even mess with it. There's some other Guess fragrances worth checking out, not this one. All right guys, that's it. 10 cheapies, not even worth the price. All right guys, thank you for hanging with me. Thank you for your support. Stay safe out there and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.